Warm welcome and good afternoon on this amazing session. I think everybody will enjoy. And thank you, Bertrand, for being with us today. So I want to start the session with something that could be a scene from the spy movie. And it says, picture this, a convoy of trucks leaving a high secured factory in Czech Republic. Inside of the truck is a sealed, precision-engineered modules containing the heart of the new supercomputer. At the gates, men in uniform and members of the Secret Service oversee every step. The cargo is loading at the watchful eyes. Its route is mapped and guarded all the way through to France. But this is not a film set. It is what it takes to deliver a supercomputer for military. Every screw, every line of the code, every kilometer of that journey represent layers of trust, clearance, and coordination between nations, between technology partners, between people who understand what digital sovereignty really means. Today, we will pull back the curtain on that movie and the story and talk to you how France has built Asgard. This is the Europe's first AI supercomputer capable of processing classified data, and how this project came to life through partnership and precision. So, my first question to you is, what would be your role in that movie?
Can you hear me? Yeah. That's really easy, actually. Director, because we like to direct. But if I put it differently, I'm not sure it's an official role, but I would say chief facilitator. As in, when you go into such a project, like there is a lot of things that can go wrong. And so one of the key components to making that happen in practice is facilitating along the way and making sure that all the things that are blocking you and kind of preventing you to get to the result that you want are actually fixed, and making sure that everything that can go wrong will actually go right. So yeah, facilitator and director for sure.
And what was your role from green light to go live?
From the very beginning, I mean, just from even a strategy perspective, what do we do? How do we want to do it? Even the idea of what we should get as a supercomputer, it kind of starts from something else. It starts from an idea and a political willingness to move much faster from an AI perspective in the field of defense. And so I need to talk a little bit about AMIAD, obviously, because this is kind of one of the key elements of the French strategy of AI in defense, creating an agency, creating a structure that is able to deliver AI at scale for the armed forces. This is kind of one of the deciding factors. And obviously, if you want to do AI, if you want to be serious about doing AI and delivering a service, nobody in the room will be surprised, hopefully, about the fact that you need compute, you need machines to do that. And obviously, the bigger the machine, the better, kind of makes sense. And so from the very beginning, saying what we want, we need a supercomputer. What you said on managing, processing classified data, it's a very important point, and we'll get back to that. Figuring out how we get there, and then doing all the operations from acquisition, infrastructure, getting all the place ready, electricity-wise, infrastructure-wise, having the place the dalle béton. I'm missing a word there. The place where you actually put the machine. All these things need to align and make sure that in the end, when you deliver the machine, it needs to be wired up and running.
Why did you decide to establish AMIAD and run all of these projects through that structure instead of standard structures that are existing?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and that comes often because when you have a structure as big as the Ministry of Armed Forces, you can wonder, like, why add one other thing? And there are a couple of reasons. One, from AI and a more generally a digital perspective, we have seen that everything that is important to make project work is precisely to have the skills internal to the structure that is doing procurement or building things, we need to have the skills, we need to internalize the skills in order to deliver the algorithms model, whatever we need. And so from an engineering perspective, it's kind of a back to the past perspective, where at some point France, we were building a lot of things from the both internally of the ministry. And so on the digital and AI matters, actually, we need to take back the ownership of part of the spectrum, and we'll also get back to that, and make sure that we have engineers who know how to do things, what to do, and also can work better with partners who can be either industrial partners or even government or other structures.
When we talk about the topic of sovereign AI, what outcomes do you expect from France and for Europe?
From Europe, obviously, I'm not sure I'm well positioned to answer, but I'll say that from a French perspective, obviously, the better we are as Europeans at AI and defense, I mean, the stronger we will be. That seems obvious. From a French perspective, in terms of sovereignty, nobody will be surprised that sovereignty is hard. We'll get back to that also. And so it was very important to internalize those skills. One, because we need to know what we talk about, what we acquire, what we discuss with partners. And so sovereignty is starting with skills. I think this is the most important factor. And then once you have the skills, then you can get work up the chain of sovereignty. You can control the models, the data, the machine structure, operating systems, firmwares. I mean, you can go very high in the layers. We're not up at the firmware level, definitely. But at least we're starting from what we can manage, which is the models, the data, operational applications. And that's a pretty good start for an agency that is a year old.
So when you were writing your RFPs to procure the system, you were very clear that you expect from the vendors to be able to deliver it within 1 year time frame, and you were very clear no extension of that time frame will be allowed. Can you tell us what was behind this requirement?
I'm not going to surprise anyone. I think when you talk, defense more generally, but especially AI and defense, timelines are key because any delay you have is a delay you have from an operational perspective. And so any week, any day, any week, any month that we spend waiting for what we bought in the first place is time that we don't spend working on models, working on applications from armed forces. And so it is time that is absolutely key for defense more generally. And it's kind of speed is a survival. I think this is how we put it at some point. We need to be fast because we need to have results fast. That's a very short answer. And that's why timing was not negotiable. We had a very specific date. Also, there is another component, which is from an HR perspective. I mean, AMIAD has been hiring a lot, like 180 people so far. And so we promised that they would have means to do the work that they hired them for in the first place. And so it's a whole picture that is pretty coherent from operational applications to people who are actually needing those systems to work on a daily basis.
So you work with very classified data, and also many of the employees have to have certain security clearance. Were there some specific choices you needed to make in order to design and also run the solution?
Yeah, I would see that from two perspectives. One is, on our side, there is a key component, which is we needed to have a full ownership on the whole system, so making sure that we understand how it's designed, that it's compliant with our security norms, etc. This was a very important point. Now, when we work with industrial partners, we also expect them to provide the best of what they know. And so, in a sense, I want also to ask you, what kind of solutions you have built experience on contracts from governments to industrial partners. And so this is also something where you have experience and where you are bringing expertise that we don't have necessarily across all the spectrum. So how did you manage that?
Oh, we manage it with a super experts, again, with also very cleared experts in the building machine for the needs of the military required a very clear supply chain structure, as well as a special room in a factory where only people with a certification and clearance are allowed to touch the systems. And every step is very, very detailed, documented, and secured, up to the delivery that I explained at the beginning, which was not the scene from the movie, but the reality, okay? So you built this through the consortium of Orange, Dassault, Thales, and others. Why was this important to you?
So one thing is, in the consortium, we also had Orange as a key partner. And the whole idea is, I mean, when you're buying compute infrastructure, you know that there is a complicated supply chain that is, I mean, obviously not French focused, maybe not even European focused. And so one of the key points of having a galaxy of partners that we trust and are local is also to make sure that we all trust the project in a sense. And so for a structure as HPE onboarding like local partners, this is an insurance in a sense that we are all speaking the same language and that we are all complying and understanding, we are all having a common understanding of what we want to have in the end in terms of end results. And obviously when you get buy-in from the whole ecosystem that what you're doing is right, it kind of, one, reassures you that you're doing the right thing, but more importantly in defense, we also have at the ministry this role for the whole industry. When you want to work on classified data, we have to work together with industrial partners, and so if you build solutions that they don't trust in the first place, it's not going to work. But I would say from an industrial perspective, this is also a challenge because, I mean, I don't know on your side, but it's always working with multiple partners is difficult. I mean, this is also something we see internally. And so how did you manage also this kind of ecosystem of provider that you were working with in the first place?
So for us, it was important to build a consortium that will have the right skills, capacities, and capabilities, what you as a customer are expecting. And these are the partners with whom we have a long-term relationship and partnership. So I think it was a natural partnership, and we were very pleased to see that you were confirming what we were putting together. Now, from your experience working with the sensitive data, can you share some lessons learned that could be maybe useful for audience that is coming from the healthcare segment or financial services segment? What can you share as your wisdom?
Wisdom, I'm not sure I would go that far. At the very least, I often say that we know what doesn't work, which is a good start. So I'm not sure we know yet what works, but we'll see. So one of my surprises when you talk to multiple ecosystems, let's say, across that are different from defense, is that although you would say that healthcare and defense are completely different, we do find each other. We do find that we have commonalities typically on data. When you talk classified data, I mean, there is obviously a lot of regulation and stuff that comes with it. But at the core, it's a sense of labeling your data and knowing what is where, what you're doing with it, how it's flowing, and tagging each piece of data with the right amount of, with the right tag to say this is classified data. And so if you extend that thinking to personal data, healthcare data, and stuff like that, you're like, it's a different tag. And so, in a sense, the way we all manage data across industries is kind of similar. And so, I tend to think that in defense, we have some of the hardest problems because, again, regulation and so different challenges. But what's interesting from my perspective is when you look at what others are doing, there is a lot of good ideas that you should take back home and also sometimes reinvent a little bit how you should be managing your data and building AI on it. Maybe the second piece I would share is there is always this kind of perspective that you need to also, like, we always talk about AI. I mean, this is one of the caveats. We say AI is very important. This is kind of the end goal, but sometimes, especially for historical organizations like us, it's hard to go down to the details of, like, okay, so I want to do AI, so I need data, I need the compute infrastructure, I need the storage systems, and I need everything, networks also. And so taking the topic just from an AI perspective is a bit of missing the point about data overall and digital transformation more generally, but this is not necessarily the topic of today. And so to make things successful, or at least not to fail miserably to start with, you really need to think about your data flow with all those constraints about security, about tags, be it for defense, healthcare, or anything. Think very deeply about how you are doing things, how you should be doing things differently, because if you stick to the way you were managing paper in a digital manner, it will not work. That's also one of the lessons learned. And so you really need to rethink the whole data flow and the user workflow, in a sense, to make sure that you actually deliver from an AI perspective and everything that you can build with AI, which is the big opportunity we have to seize in the first place.
Many of our customers are talking to us saying one of the challenges is there is only one budget and there is a lot of competing among different ideas at the customer side for the same budget. So how did you get a budget for this project internally? Was there a special business case that was created and listened to?
Kind of. So you're probably not versed into how public finance work, but the key point was the AI strategy for defense. Basically, it comes to politics, as in when you want to shift and change the trajectory of what's happening in the public sector somewhere, I mean, you need to have a very strong willingness of organizations and politics to align and say, this is what we want. And so the key point about the AI strategy for defense that was published early 2024, internally, obviously, was encompassing a few decisions. So one, creating the agency, but when we were creating the agency, we obviously thought about all the investments we had to make, people, hiring people. So as I said, like, we needed to get people with the right skill sets. And so hiring all of them is a pretty big investment, actually, probably the largest one, in my opinion. Then compute infrastructures, because you want to be able to work with the data that you're gathering. So it was not a special budget. It was actually a part of a global effort where we derived what would cost what and where. And so once you get buy-in from leadership, armed forces, political level, then you execute. And my job is basically to make sure that we execute correctly and efficiently. And back to your first question, like being the key facilitator to make sure that everything lines and works together. This is a key part of getting there.
Thank you. So last question from my side. What is the next in AI for defense?
It's a good question. I would say that the most important thing right now is what we see on the east side of Europe, and especially something I've talked about a lot in the media, which is the future of warfare from an AI perspective. So what's been happening in Ukraine is definitely showing that we need to do more in terms of autonomy, in terms of drones. And so we have a project at AMIAD that is called Pendragon. If you're from Brittany, you probably know a little bit about that. And so the whole idea is precisely to see, can we build an autonomous combat unit by 2027, basically. There is a big technological challenge, obviously, because getting there is not easy, to say the least. But the interesting thing is the way we are building this project is really a fast-track research, development, deployment project. The deployment part is pretty important because we see the technology, we see the potential of what we can do and where we could be heading in the coming months. And so the key thing we're doing at AMIAD right now is working with a lot of industrial partners to see what technology exists, what we can seize, what we can use right now. Robots also, because we need some platforms. And as I say often, AMIAD, we are an AI structure, so we don't do robotics. And so working with the best of what we have on the market right now and putting that together, using our expertise in AI and combining it with a lot of industrial partners that we have in France and in Europe or generally, should lead us to having more autonomy on the battlefield. And I think this is a key transformation that we'll be seeing, that we are seeing right now, but that we'll keep seeing in the coming years, months, I think.
Thank you very much. We are all inspired what is coming next, and thank you for your time today and for your trust.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.